The new Lenovo Legion 7 offers some crazy gaming performance. I've tested it in 13 games at 2 different resolutions and compared it against other laptops to show you what the differences are. These are the specs of my Legion 7. I've got one of the higher spec options with Ryzen 9 5900HX CPU, 16GB RTX 3080 graphics, and a 16-inch 165Hz screen with G-Sync. But you can find other configurations like RTX 3060 as well as updated prices with the links down in the description. Before we get into the game benchmarks, this video is sponsored by Western Digital's MyPassport SSD, a super portable and sleek external USB NVMe drive. We all want quick access to our data, and as files continue to get larger, a slower hard drive just can't compare. Laptops in particular have limited space for storage. This small and light external SSD offers easy expansion. The metal casing offers drop and vibration resistance, and data can be easily secured with password protection, which uses 256-bit AES hardware encryption. With capacities up to 4 TB in size, the WD MyPassport SSD has your on-the-go storage needs covered. Back to the Legion 7, it's using a 16x10 screen with a 2560x1600 resolution. So I've tested games with this, but I've also lowered it to 1920x1200 as well, as I think this still looks pretty good. So basically we're dealing with the 16x10 versions of 1080p and 1440p, which just means there's a bit more pixels as there's more vertical space compared to a traditional 16x9 screen. The Lenovo website lists the following power limits for different GPU options. So based on this, they appear to be full power variants. In a GPU only stress test, I found my 3080 would run at around 160 watts. So 165 with dynamic boost is probably possible. With the processor also loaded up in a CPU stress test, the GPU was still running at 150 watts. So basically a full powered laptop 3080. And based on that, I would assume that the 3070 and 3060 models are also full power without any problems. The Legion 7 has a mux switch, so you can disable Optimus after a reboot by turning off hybrid mode through the Vantage software, and this will boost gaming performance. G-Sync is only available with Optimus disabled, but with Optimus enabled you still have the option of using FreeSync as well, so you've got both. Lenovo's Vantage software lets you modify performance modes. I've done all testing in the highest performance mode for best results. Unfortunately there's no fan speed control, and despite this having an HX processor, there's no option in the Lenovo software to modify the CPU power limits. Let's start out by checking out gaming performance in 13 games at 2 different resolutions. I'll compare it with other laptops afterwards, and then look at the screen response time. Or if you get bored at any point, just use those timestamps below to time travel to a relevant section. This is just a gaming performance video. I still need more time with the Legion 7 to test out absolutely everything like battery life and thermals. So make sure you're subscribed for the upcoming full review of the Legion 7 as well as the Legion 5 Pro, which should be here soon. Cyberpunk 2077 was tested in Little China with the Street Kid Life Path. I've got the 2560x1600 native resolution shown by the red bars, and the lower 1920x1200 resolution in the purple bars. Even max settings at the lower resolution was still above 60 FPS, while the native and higher resolution was only just a little under 60 at high settings. Red Dead Redemption 2 was tested with the game's benchmark. Even max settings with the higher resolution was right on 60 FPS in this test. An excellent result given last-gen hardware often struggled to achieve this at standard 1080p. Call of Duty Warzone was tested with either all settings at minimum or maximum, as it doesn't have predefined setting presets. 100 FPS was possible even at max settings with the native resolution, though we could boost this by 35% by using the lower resolution, which offered bigger gains compared to just lowering settings. For control, let's start without ray tracing or DLSS, so just stock default gameplay. Max settings at native resolution was still above 60 FPS, near that for the 1% low actually, so playing quite well, though we could boost 1% lows above average FPS at high and medium settings just by lowering the resolution if you're after higher FPS. Here's how much performance drops back with ray tracing enabled but without DLSS. So still 60 FPS max settings at above regular 1080p in the purple bars, not too bad. But DLSS is able to offer nice improvements. Now at max settings with the native resolution, it's actually performing better with ray tracing and DLSS compared to without both. Assassin's Creed Valhalla was tested with the game's benchmark. Max settings at the higher resolution was still around 60 FPS here, but we could boost average FPS by 22% with the lower resolution, or of course instead use lower setting presets to get those gains. Microsoft Flight Simulator was tested in the Sydney Landing Challenge. There's not much of a difference at all here between the two resolutions, so might as well just stick to native res. Best case, low settings with the lower resolution was just able to hit 60 FPS, but you don't need high frame rates for this one. Watch Dogs Legion was tested with the game's benchmark. There wasn't much difference between the two resolutions at lower setting levels here either, but the gap widens at higher presets. At ultra settings, the 1% lows from the lower resolution is above the average FPS of the native res. But that said, the higher res is still above 60 FPS, a great great result. Battlefield 5 was tested in campaign mode. Again, smaller differences at lower setting levels and more of a difference at higher settings. The 1% low difference was much more minor compared to average FPS changes, but regardless, above 100 FPS at max is great for this test, as you'll see soon when we look at some comparisons with other laptops. Shadow of the Tomb Raider was tested with the game's benchmark tool. No difference at all with the lowest settings. Then, like most other titles tested, the gap widens between the two resolutions at higher setting presets. This is another game I'll use to compare other laptops soon. Fortnite was tested with the replay feature. This is more of an esports test, so higher frame rates are expected, especially with the ability of disabling Optimus, as Optimus typically becomes a bigger bottleneck at high frame rates. Anyway, still high frame rates at max settings with some pretty crazy results at lower levels. 1% lows at medium with either resolution are above the screen's 165Hz refresh rate. CSGO is another esports title, and this one in particular is one I've found to see big gains with Optimus disabled due to the high frame rates that the test can hit. Either way, again, crazy frame rates are possible here too. Rainbow Six Siege also hits high frame rates without issue, even at the higher native resolution, where max settings was reaching 1% lows above the screen's refresh rate, so a perfectly smooth experience here too. The Witcher 3 is an older game that I still test so you can compare with my older videos. Absolutely zero issues running max settings even with full resolution, though there were quite big gains to be had at the lower resolution if you want higher 1% lows. Now let's find out how well this configuration of Lenovo Legion 7 compares against other laptops. I've had to specially run these tests at 1080p, as that's the resolution I've got data for the purposes of comparing. I've tested Battlefield 5 in campaign mode at ultra settings, and the Legion 7 is highlighted in red. These results are very impressive. This is the second highest score I've ever seen from any gaming laptop in this game, at least in terms of average FPS, though the 1% low is still definitely up there too. Keep in mind this is basically the top end spec of the Legion 7, but still the results are promising compared to other 3080 laptops I've tested, so I'd expect the lead to also translate down to the 3070 or 3060 models too when compared to others with those GPUs. Shadow of the Tomb Raider was tested with the game's benchmark tool with the highest setting preset, and the Legion 7 moves down just one position here and is only a few frames behind a larger 17-inch laptop with the same CPU and GPU. Regardless, it is still one of the best results I've ever recorded from any gaming laptop thanks to the combination of high-end specs, high power limits, and the ability to disable Optimus. Far Cry 5 was also tested with the game's benchmark tool at max settings. The Legion 7 moves down a bit further here. This test generally depends more on the processor. However, at the same time, it looks like it might also favor Intel systems given those take up the top 5 spots. In any case, the Legion 7 is only just slightly behind the same spec but larger Prometheus 17. Setting the laptop to 1080p in Windows adds black bars above and below, but with pretty much all games running at 1080p, it just stretches the game out a bit to fill the whole screen. It depends on the game and if it supports setting aspect ratio. When stretched out, I could notice it, but it depends on the game. You could also run regular 1440p with black bars too. As for how 1920 by 1200 looks, honestly, I think it's still pretty good. If I go out of my way, yeah, it looks a bit blurrier compared to 2560 by 1600, but when I'm in the game and playing, it's not something I'm actively noticing. But this could depend on the person viewing. Honestly, as we've seen, with the specs in my Legion 7, it can run modern games with high settings at the full native resolution anyway. So with the 3080, you might as well just enjoy that. But it will be a different story with, say, the RTX 3060. Hopefully I can get that one to test out too. Alright, now let's check out the screen response time. The Vantage software lets you enable or disable panel overdrive, which affects screen response time. Mine was off by default. If we turn on overdrive, the average gray to gray response time for the panel was around 4.4 milliseconds. There's a link down in the description if you need an explanation on what all of these numbers mean. With overdrive instead disabled, we're looking at a 7.66 millisecond response time now. However, there was now no overshoot or undershoot, which was present with it on. It's one of the better results when comparing it against others. Not the best, but well below the 6 milliseconds needed for all transitions to occur within the refresh window, so nothing to complain about. There's a lot more I need to show you about the Lenovo Legion 7. I just need more time to finish testing it out, so make sure you're subscribed for the upcoming full review video, as well as for the Lenovo Legion 5 Pro as well, which is on its way. For now, come join us in Discord and get behind the scenes videos by supporting the channel in Patreon.